Face the event. From brand ambassadors and event staffers to magicians and presenters, it's the one and only podcast to introduce the faces in and around the trade show and events industry. And here's our host, Scott Tokar.
Hello and welcome to Face the Event. My name is Scott Tokar. I am your host. This is our second episode of season number 1. I hope you enjoyed our first podcast, and I hope that you are clicking that subscribe button so we can keep this podcast going. Today, we're going to share with you, first off, a little bit about eating on the trade show floor, where to get food, why not to buy food from the vendors there at the show floor, and some tips and tricks to save you a lot of money. Followed by a face-to-face interview with Robin Bell. Robin is a live presenter now, but she's pretty much done it all in the industry. She's going to tell us about the difference between healthcare conventions and builders conventions and users group conferences. She's going to tell us about researching and scripting her very own presentations. And what's the difference between a PowerPoint slide presentation and physically working with a company's products or doing a live demo. She's also going to tell us about the ear prompter, as well as how to properly promote yourself in the trade show world. She's going to give us some tips on photographs, as well as tips on websites and videos that you need in order to be a success in this world. She's going to tell us about also how to get a trade show marketing website up and get those referrals coming in. And to close out the show, our typical facepalm is from Becky Jo Schwartz of CE Talent. She tells us of an indecent exposure in a jacuzzi after a trade show from with a brand ambassador. It's definitely a facepalm to end all facepalms. Well, let's get right into the show. Here's our first subject. Today, it's eating on the trade show floor.
Eating and food. That's all to be taken care of when no one sees it. A bottle of water, at minimum, with the client's permission, is the only thing that the client should ever see you with on the show floor. No food ever in the booth, no drink ever in the booth, especially if the client has a white carpet.
So obviously, if you're working a long day, food is going to be important. Food, however, should not be consumed in the booth. It should be done either before you get to the booth, during a break, or after the show.
You do not have time to stand in line for 40 minutes on your 45-minute break to eat a $12 piece of crappy pizza. Always bring your own food. Always bring your own snacks.
Lines, if you're planning on just getting food there at the trade show floor, it could be very long.
You're going to find that it's going to take a lot longer if you don't bring your food with you. You're going to use most of your break standing in line and trying to figure out where to eat.
Well, trade show food, convention floor food is usually not very good. So I usually bring power bars. Always bring some food just in case you have to work through lunch.
So make sure you bring food to snack on in case you cannot get to the food that might be being sold.
I always have almonds, maybe cranberries mixed in there. Of course, a power bar. You never know.
One of the things that I try to do is get either a big cooler that I can put ice in, or I go to the grocery store in the morning.
Also keep in mind, if you're on your lunch break and you're going to have a grilled cheese and onion sandwich, your breath could have some difficulties when you get back. So if you're going to eat garlic, onions, something like that, make sure you have your toothbrush with you so that you can, take care of that issue.
Try to find an exhibitor lounge to go sit at and eat, or sometimes you're just stuck on the stairs.
Usually some type of caffeine, maybe a Red Bull, some type of an energy thing. Cough drops, you have to have those. Keep your voice going. I don't know, you never leave without something. And the lines for food at those shows are so long, so wouldn't even think of going to those.
And alternatively, make sure you're not eating anything that is going to spill all over you. If you're going to have a hot dog with, ketchup and mustard and relish, or if you're going to eat something that, bring a bib or something so you don't spill all over.
But I will say that in Louisville, Kentucky, they have these food trucks outside. So good. If you're ever on that trade show floor, go outside for lunch. It's great.
We want to thank Jennifer Canali, Becky Jo Schwartz, Alexis Bays, Robin Bell, and Veronica Taveldi for their tips today. All right, so out on the trade show floor, there's all sorts of different people you're going to meet and run into and see. And obviously the presenters, there's many different types of presenters. Obviously I'm the magician doing the magic tricks, but a lot of times there's that information that goes a little bit deeper and has maybe a little bit more presentation style to it. And there's a few people in this industry that I think of, and immediately I think of Robin Bell. She's been in this business at least as long as I have, and I see her at all these different shows, and I'm always impressed in her delivery and her professionalism. So I thought I'd bring her on here. Let's welcome Robin Bell. Hi, Robin. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for that intro. That was pretty nice.
Oh well, and it comes from the heart, because there's people that we are like a family. We've said that in past podcasts. Yeah. There's a family element here. We're all stuck out there on the road often, and our family is back at home someplace, but we know we can, in a pinch, rely on each other out there. So you're one of those people that is certainly in that group.
We definitely have a trade show family. It's the familial connection that's really, I think that's one of the things that captivates me.
Yeah, exactly. Now, do you remember your first trade show?
Oh, gosh. That's going back. Yes, I do.
Tell me about it.
I do. It was, I was a presenter talking about a Ford van, and it had been converted into a flower shop. And there were flowers in there as a demo. This show was 5 days long. They never changed the flowers. The flowers were dying by the end of the week. I opened up the van doors, and out go these little bugs on the last day of the show. And I still had people coming up and saying, "Do you do weddings?"
You know, you're supposed to save these kind of stories for our facepalm at the end of the show. That's funny. That's funny.
That was the first one.
How did you get that gig? How did you end up in trade shows?
I got that job through an agency. A friend of mine had said that they were doing auditions at an agency to go audition. I did, and they hired me right away for 5 shows. And I've been doing them since.
What kind of agency was that? Was it like, because sometimes there's modeling agencies out there, and there's specific like trade show agencies and that kind of thing. What kind of agency was it?
This was a trade show marketing company. So their main focus was trade shows and providing talent to trade shows. And then they embellished that as time went on to help the company with other messaging. But yeah, trade shows.
I think I know what company you're talking about. Do you want to say the name of the company?
Probably not.
Okay. All right. There's some infamy in that company too, so that's probably the real insiders. The folks that have been in the business for a really long time probably know what we're talking about. But
I have to say, I have high regard for that group of people, and that was where I moved from Los Angeles to Chicago, and there was not a lot of whole family kind of feeling in the industry, the music industry, where I was involved in out there. But when I came here and the trade show industry, that was one of the things, going back to your point about the family feel, I was so blown away by that connection. So yeah, I think that agency was my introduction to it. I still work with them, and they're a wonderful group of people.
So typically I see you doing presenting. What kind of products, what kind of companies have you represented in doing presenting?
So healthcare, in the healthcare industry, medical industry, I've done conferences as well as trade shows overseas and here in the U.S. Commercial printing overseas and here in the U.S. Let's see. User group shows like Oracle, Open World, Microsoft Ignite, Cisco Live, those kinds of shows. I've worked with Ford Motor Company for a lot of years, doing a wide variety from builder shows to concrete shows to waste management. I mean, there's a large variety. Pizza Expo. I mean, that was great.
Got a little infamy in that show too.
Yeah, a lot of food consumption at that show from this redhead.
So tell me, when I do presenting, it's not just like, say, look at this pen, and then you make up stuff about it. There's a script, isn't there?
There's a script, always given a script, and typically for me, I make it my own. I will rewrite scripts with the approval of the client. I will do a lot of research, so I know what I'm talking about. Not up there just reciting. I think it's part of the responsibility of the presenter to know what it is they're talking about. And to know what it is you're talking about makes it more exciting. So for me, I love to learn. This is a great opportunity for me to use that passion of mine to love learning and doing research. And I'll tell you, some of the medical shows, watching YouTube videos on placement of hernia meshes and stuff, it's pretty fascinating. So yeah, I think the research and the preparation and to know what it is you're talking about, to talk to the writers of the script.
Oh, that was where I was going to go next. Do you write the script, or does someone write it for you and that kind of thing?
Well, yes, I actually have written scripts and co-written. Typically, I'm given a script, and then I'll take it and make it my own, make it conversational. There have been scripts that have been written by some clients that I have overseas, Belgium and Germany and England. And the scripts that have come from Germany or from Belgium, sometimes it's the translation. What I have to ask them sometimes is this what you meant to say? Because that's what you're saying. And overseas, surprisingly, there's a need for English-speaking presenters.
Yeah, I know some people in Dubai, specifically, the expats that move there just so that they can do a lot of presenting.
Really?
Yeah, just because they need a clean English-speaking person to deliver some of the stuff for that market. Yeah. Dubai's a beautiful place. I could totally hang out there anytime.
Yeah.
So, do you have to memorize these scripts? I mean, how long are they? And because my memory sucks.
Yeah, well, we do have something that helps the memory. But what happens, and it's called an ear prompter, and I'll tell you about that here in just a moment. But I will tell you that there is a process when you're working on a script and you're spending hours and hours and hours before you even go to the trade show floor. You are well versed in what this script is, and it's a funny thing that the brain does. It kind of takes over, and sometimes when I'm doing a presentation in front of a live audience, my brain will rework what the content is, because it makes more sense to me now that I'm around it, I'm seeing it, I'm touching it, I'm learning more about it from the engineers or the salespeople on the trade show floor. Then I find another way to present that to audiences. So yes, there is a level of memorization that kind of happens. And there are some companies I've been working with for years. I know their products inside and out, and it's learning about their new products or services that they want me to present. So those are added to it. And there are times when a script is presented and there's a particular audience that might be really interested in another product offering, and it's not in the script. I will add that because I think that's added value to the client and also for those who are listening.
Well, and I think that really sets you apart from folks that are solely on ear and only can repeat that. And we're hinting on something that, I don't know if it's really a secret.
It is for some.
I'm a magician. I want to honor any secrets here, but I personally use ear occasionally, and it's a skill. You want to let on what we're talking about a little bit here? What is ear?
Yeah, so it's called an ear prompter, and you'll see on newscasts, you'll see a device in a person's.
IFB sometimes there.
Sometimes it's IFB. I've done IFB, but most of the time it's live. A producer is talking to them and giving them direction through an ear monitor. For presenters, a lot of presenters, there's a lot of times when we memorize, and it makes sense to, if you're doing a game show, you really have to be memorized. Or in the case of Ford Motor Company, for me, I know their products inside and out, and I can talk to them and about them till the cows come home. But there are some products and maybe technology where the presentation is 20 minutes long, and you're relying on your memory. Sometimes that's not always the way that you can do this, or things change last minute, which happens frequently. They may say, we're taking that out, legal hasn't allowed that to be presented, or we can't show this now, it's changed. So we have a thing called an ear prompter, and you record the script on a device, a little recorder, and then it's transmitted to your ears. So you set it at your pace, and in the way that you want to speak, and then a fraction of a second afterwards, you're repeating this. Now, when you become really good on the ear, and you don't just put it down on a tape recorder, put it in your ear, or on a digital recorder, we use digital recorders, put your ear monitor in your ear and then go and do it. It takes rehearsal with that so that you become smooth, so that what you're presenting to the audience, they think is flawless and clear, and you're just talking off the top of your head. Maybe with cues from a PowerPoint.
So it's a little bit like the game that you may remember playing in elementary school, where someone would talk and you'd talk just past them or just beyond what they said. So it's repeating exactly yourself from yourself. Yeah. I find it Zen-like. There's actually a different place that my brain and my whole function goes to. And frankly, for me, when I'm on air, it's actually quite relaxing. It's something that's a different skill set.
It is a different skill set. For me, it's a little bit different because this is a cue. And I'm pretty excited. Every time I do a presentation, it's exciting for me. And the reason it's exciting for me is because every audience is different. And I like it when I see their eyes open just a little bit, or their head tip, or maybe they lean forward a little bit and they're really interested, or they sit back and they smile like they've gotten it, or like, oh, that's what I'm looking for, to give that messaging to them and for them to have it resonate with them. So for me, this is kind of a cue, and it's not necessarily a Zen thing for me. For me, it's, I can't wait to tell you about this, and I can't wait to see those responses from you, because my job is to effectively get that messaging across. And, after you've done, I've done as many as 36, 37 presentations in a day, and they were 5-minute presentations. And that first one has to be as exciting as the last one. And it is when you are focused on them, not on your ear, not on the grocery list. For me, it's about getting that message across, and there's always some kind of interaction that I can have with an audience that makes it.
I think the more you get used to your script, the more times you do it. Like I'd say about 5 times into the script live on the show floor, then I can start stepping away a little bit. It sounds like you've got way more experience at that than I do. I don't usually work on an ear, so for me, it takes me a little bit probably longer to slip into that feeling. But it's really an interesting place to be. How long, you mentioned something as long as 20 minutes. That's a long presentation. On average, how long are your presentations that you're doing on air?
Well, it varies from industry to industry. The medical shows, they tend to be longer. They're usually, it's heavier content, it's longer content, and typically we're doing a demo. So we may be showing a new piece of equipment, and we're doing demos on it. I may be working with somebody else who's running the demo while I'm introducing different aspects of it. So that can run 17, 18 minutes. And a demo, because something is moving parts, people really like that. Because that is happening, it keeps them engaged. Typically, if you're just working as somebody who's just giving informational and you've maybe got a PowerPoint to boost what you're doing and maybe some video, you try to encourage a shorter time. 8 minutes can then seem very long. So typically it's about 7 minutes. If it's too long, I tend to talk to the client about it and say, we've got redundancy here, or we may have a better way to say this. What do you think of this? So it tightens it up a little bit so that you're being respectful of the time that the people who are attending your presentation have to give you, and you want to give them your best message. So how do we go about doing that? And then if they want more information or they want to see a demo, we can certainly get them into other areas of the booth for that.
So if you're doing these presentations, are you also responsible to get the people to sit down usually a theater, sit down in the seats to watch you? Do you have crowd gatherers? How does that work?
Well, it's wonderful when we have crowd gatherers. A lot of the time, especially those shows overseas, I do the crowd gathering on my own. So I'll do it on mic. I'll get out in the aisles and pull people in. I invite them in I tell them approximately how long the presentation is, what it covers, and invite them to join us. Crowd gatherers do the same thing. They go out into the audience, and the benefit of having a crowd gatherer is once my presentation starts or any presenter's presentation starts, they can continue to invite people in to see the presentation, to learn more about what this company has to offer.
So are there any tricks to get people to sit down? I mean, I've got my tricks as a magician, and as a magician, I don't know if you knew this or not, but there's 2 styles that I do. You may have seen me do a lot of aisle view presentations, but I also do the theater style. You might have seen me do that, where I would cut a girl in half in a theater and do a little bit more in-depth presenting. But so I've got some of my tricks. Do you have any tricks to get the audience to sit down to join you, that kind of thing?
Well, there are enticements, premiums. They're called premiums. There are premiums in that sometimes if an attendee doesn't know what your company is about, what they offer, and you want to get them to come into the booth, you'll have a premium. But a lot of the times, if you tell them, what it is you're presenting, they will tell you at a lot of shows. They'll say, well, that's not my area, but thank you for stopping me. Typically, it's the premiums that will get a lot of people in there. That's what crowd gatherers will use. But in the medical industry, you can't give away. There's legal that says you can't give away gifts. Get in there. Well, they're there for information.
The pharma guidelines don't allow you to do that. But a lot of times you will do like a drawing or something, right? Like you'll hand people the crowd gatherers often will be employed to scan badges and then hand them like a raffle ticket or something like that. Is that the way that you've worked in the past?
A lot, yes. So, and we've done some very elaborate giveaways, a car, tickets to see Macy Gray and Bare Naked Ladies, and I mean, just
You're talking about the band there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure, because that's a totally different show for Bare Naked Ladies.
No, I don't do those shows. So I can't help you. I can't help you with that kind of...
No. That's definitely a Vegas thing. I don't know.
That's a Vegas thing, yeah. And only in January, I think.
CES time. So, how do you work? Do you work all by yourself? I mean, are you booking these things yourself, or is an agent coming to you, or are you going through a producer? How does that work with you?
So yes, to all of those things. Word of mouth. So other presenters may have gotten a call to do a show that's happening at the same time they're already booked, and they'll contact me and see if I'm available. It could be an agency, could be a trade show agency, could be an exhibit house. It could be a marketing company. Another company could have seen me on the trade show floor and said, hey, can I get your card? We'd be interested in talking to you. So there are a lot of different ways of this happening. Word of mouth is great, and seeing you on the trade show floor is great. And for some, like brand ambassadors, some presenters and models, people who booth staff, anybody that's doing that kind of work, hostesses, those are a lot done through agencies.
Right. So if you're a brand ambassador, if you're a hostess, if you're a crowd gatherer or a badge scanner or brand ambassador, all these different things, without a doubt you need photos and you need a resume. But as a presenter, it's really important that you have a demo reel or a sizzle reel or something like that, right?
Yeah. So really the demo reel, now what they ask for is, if, say it's the medical industry, they'd like to see 3 or 4 pieces, little short pieces in a reel that they can look at on a YouTube channel. So you can put together a little reel and you can do that. For the computer industry, technology and services, it would be a little bit different. You'd offer, different pieces from that industry. If they want to see a variety of things that you've done, maybe you've done game shows, or you've done some kind of elaborate show. We used to do a lot of very elaborate shows with dancing. I used to sing and dance in these shows, and if they want to see more of those kinds of things, then you piece together a demo that shows what you're capable of presenting credibly in the medical industry, or in a much livelier, let's get them in here, let's have some fun, come on in, we're doing this kind of thing, in a more sort of party atmosphere, if you will, like some of the user group shows, they have some fun times.
Even though it's a party atmosphere, though, when you show your photographs, the photographs that you're delivering to these clients, you have to realize that they're in a corporate setting. They're looking for someone that looks corporate, that's going to look like they fit in the booth that you're going to be working in. So your photos have to look professional, either done professionally by a photographer, or at least something that looks clean cut. You want to expound upon that?
Yeah, so you probably need a variety of things. A headshot, it's not as essential as it used to be. So some of your marketing tools, of course, a reel, they're going to want to see you in action. A professional headshot, not a bikini. That's a different. There are agencies that want that, or in workout gear for different clientele. But typically, you're not going to see bikinis on a trade show floor anymore. Definitely, you want to be relaxed and professional looking. It doesn't necessarily have to be a suit, but you should have professional shots. But you also want action shots. So you'll want photos of what you've done on the trade show floor. Typically, you want to get audiences in those shots. They want to see that you've had that kind of big audience engagement.
Right. So what about the resume? What kind of things do you put on a resume? Is it just your name, height, weight? Do you put? I mean, what goes on a resume for something like this?
Again, it depends upon what they're looking for. But my resume does not have height and weight. It has my union affiliation, SAG-AFTRA, my name. It has then it has trade shows. It has the companies that I've worked for, the trade shows that I've done. It has ear prompter proficient, a special. Yeah. So it's fairly simple. You know, it's funny. There isn't really an ask so much anymore for headshots and resumes. They really want to see the video that you have, video content. So we have a website, and we have with lots of pictures, and there are video clips in there that gives you an idea of from this type of presentation to this type of presentation, everything in between. From tutorials, and I'm certified in a software program, so I'm teaching on that, and there's a video of that.
So do you have, if you're going to send someone a website, I think some people are worried, do you have an agent-friendly website and a regular website, or do you just have one website? And maybe I should explain. Agent-friendly website at least in the magic world, we would have a website that would be maybe just our name, and there wouldn't be any contact information on there. It's just a bio and that kind of stuff, so that the agent can send them there knowing that they're going to go back to the agent to get booked. And then there's my own personal website that has all of that information, because I'm going to get booked by myself, with my phone number and with my information on there. Do you have both, or one, or what?
No, just one. There's even, you look at the website as your calling card, in a sense. You've got a business card. I still have a business card. Or you can, and people can scan it, or they can take the business card, and they ask for the business card. Mm-hmm. It's funny, people stopped asking for my business card for a long time, and then they started asking for it again. So that seems to be a trend now, where they're asking for it more. It is your calling card, your website. It gives them a deeper dive if they want it. Agencies typically don't. The one agency I deal with, they use it because they trust that I'm not going to try to take any client from them. I wouldn't do that. So they'll use my website if the client wants a more comprehensive look at what it is that I'm able to do. Most of the time, again, they want a YouTube clip, and they send that off to the client.
So even though you're working through agencies, you've really made this your profession, your business. It's not like you're relying only on agencies or other people to find you work. You're out there looking for the work yourself, and you're hustling in order to get this work.
Yeah. So there's a thing that kind of happens. For me, reputation is really important. So. And to most of us, we've been in this a while, and our reputation is really key. So in order for somebody else, another presenter, to say, hey, I want Robin to fill in for me, I trust that she's going to do a really good job for the client, and she's not going to try to take that client from me. So you build a level of trust and reputation in your reputation. So word of mouth, clients, I will get jobs from other presenters. I will get jobs from agencies. And yes, I've been doing this a long time, but I don't go with just one thing. If you put all your eggs in one basket, that basket can empty out pretty quickly sometimes. So having a lot, being signed in with lots of different agencies, don't go exclusive, and making sure that you present yourself in a way that other people would trust for you to take over for them if the case ever happened.
The nugget you just said to me is one of the most important things, is don't go exclusive. And the agencies out there, if you find an agency that is feeling insecure with the fact that you're also available at other agencies and demanding something exclusive, that might very well be a warning sign, wouldn't it?
It absolutely would be. There are a couple of agencies I deal with, and they are not happy with each other. But we have worked for both of them for a very long time, and they are respectful. Again, it goes back to trust. They trust that we have their best interest at heart. When we're working for them, we are dedicated to whatever project it is they're hiring us for. And so there's a level of there was a situation years ago when one of the agencies said, look, I really need you to do this show. And I said, well, I'm already booked with this other agency. And they said, please, we really need you. Could you ask them? I went to the owner of the other agency and I said, look, my first obligation is to you guys. And I really would love to do this show. This is the situation. I said I would present it to you, but I am fully ready to do and meet my obligation, ready to do this show. And the owner of the agency said, well, what's the benefit of you doing one show over the other? I said, there's joy in doing either one of them. So whatever you decide is fine with me. And she said, go ahead and do that other one. I can get somebody to fill in here.
And do you find that they get upset that sometimes you book direct, or is that just okay too?
No, they don't, unless you're trying to take their client, and that's not a good idea.
Right.
That's never a good idea, because again, reputation, it'll follow you. But no, they never have a problem if you have a client that's direct an agency may come in and try to woo that client or offer them something, but that's a rare occurrence now. That used to happen a long time ago.
Oh boy, do I remember that happening.
Right?
Yeah, but now when I am working for an agency, I hand the agent's card out. I don't hand my own business card out, right?
Right. Exactly. So if I'm working direct for a client and somebody comes over, if it's a competitor to that client, then I respectfully decline and say I can't do that. If this is a long time client for me, but I say I can recommend somebody else to you if you'd like. An agency, yes, I hand out the agency's card.
Well, now let's backtrack here just a little bit, because that's an interesting thing. If you're in the exhibit industry, if you're building exhibits, it's not uncommon for an exhibit house, let's say it's Skyline Displays, that they might build an exhibit for McDonald's, but also at the same time be building an exhibit for Burger King, and that's okay. Do you find that you mentioned competitor kind of situation, do you find that an issue as a live presenter?
Rarely do I have that. Rarely is that an issue. And I know sometimes with most clients understand that, say, an AV house or an exhibit house, they're going to have other clients, and they're probably going to have them at the very same show. There are some clients, there are some exhibit houses or agencies that want to keep it quiet. More agencies, I think I've experienced that, where they don't really want, if there's a competition, it's more in the medical world. If there's a competition, that's a lot more territorial in that world. So maybe they won't say, I'm also working for this company. But it would be foolhardy to be working for a company in the medical industry, particularly the medical industry, to be working for them and then take a job with their competitor and work right across the aisle or even in another hall. It would be foolhardy.
Yeah, I think that particular medical shows are a totally different animal.
They
just as auto shows are a different animal from B2B kind of show. But in the medical shows, I think it goes into the reps, because if you're a medical rep, then you have to go to their boot camp on their drug, and you have to learn, and they invest a lot in those people, and then they have to keep their numbers up. And at the same time, in that industry, one drug company is always trying to steal the other drug company's sales staff, the ones that are good. So I think there's a little more competitiveness in that. Have you ever worked an auto show?
No, never worked an auto show, but what I've worked is commercial vehicles. So those shows are different. So you're talking about, and for Ford Motor Company, so you're talking about a very different...
like the work truck show or something like that?
Exactly.
Yep.
So you're talking about people who need commercial vehicles.
In fact,
from the F-250.
I think that's where we saw each other last, was at the work truck show, yeah. So let me ask you a more ethereal question here. Robin, imagine you were just getting into trade shows today, and you had all the knowledge you now have with the experience that you have. What would you tell your young self? Is there any tips or things that you would want to tell your young self? Not to say that you're old now, just your less experienced self. I should reword that. That was so rude.
Don't worry about it. I think if I were to advise, and I do actually, I talk to younger people who want to get into the business, or other presenters who have come to me and said, I'm new to this. How do I, can you watch me and give me and critique me? And I will do that as long as they're open to what I have to say. And I'm never going to insult somebody, but I'm saying take this in the manner that it's given. It's meant to help you. It's my observation. You don't have to take what I say as gospel. But for me, if I were talking to the younger me, I'd say research, research, research. Make that client happy. Know what it is you're talking about. Know what you're talking about. Don't just read a script. Develop that relationship with the client. so that you're not doing a show and then you're going off and seeing your friends or in search of tickets for whatever event they're going to have the last day, or you want tchotchkes from the show. Commit yourself to that client, because when you do that, they will commit to you.
You know, that's my favorite question to ask everybody, and I just kind of botched it in asking it the way I did to you. But I think it really does give you insight, because I think that's probably the most valuable thing you can know is that you do need to make your client first, and you need to make sure that they're happy. You know, is there anything that else that you'd like to share with our audience that maybe I've forgotten to ask you?
No, I think if you keep in mind, try to see your client's perspective and look at the booth as though it's your home, right? You care about it, all aspects of it. When I go into a booth, if I see things that maybe need adjustment, I can talk to the trade show manager and say, it might be better for us if we opened up that area so people can come into the booth. Maybe we can move that literature stand or whatever the case may be. But make that your home. And again, I can't stress it enough. Commit to what you're doing. It's not necessarily an easy thing where, oh, I'm just going to put this on the air, I'm going to get up there and do it, I'll mouth the words. The audience knows it, the client knows it, and if you're having fun when you do this, you have fun when you know what you're talking about, because wow, it really does that. That's really cool. When you know that, that makes it more fun for you. And when you're relaying that to the people that are sitting in those chairs and standing room and other booths looking and coming over what's going on over there, you're getting that message across in an engaging and a fun way. And that's the key. You're having fun, they're having fun, and everybody's learning something. So
that's such great advice. You mentioned you had a website that you send your customers to. Do you want to kind of plug your website? If I wanted to look at who you are, where do I go?
So it's www.tradeshowtalk.net.
And there's more than just you on that.
Yeah, that's right. There's also my spousal unit, a.k.a. Larry Wyatt, and his profile's up there as well.
And I promise we're going to have Larry on the show soon, too, because he's got some great stories as well. Any social media or anything else you want to say, hey, connect with me this way?
Yeah, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. That's a good point, too. That's a good source. Dedicating a little bit of time, don't overdo it, but dedicate a little time to a LinkedIn profile and look into how you can actually go online and find out ways to write a LinkedIn profile and to set up your LinkedIn page so that it's more effective and draws people in.
So just look for Robin Bell there on LinkedIn as well.
Robin Bell, that's it.
Well, Robin, wow! I really appreciate your spending some time with us today. I mean, I've learned so much, from you, and out there on the road, we consider each other friends, and it's so good to bump into you at all these shows and know that, hey, if I had a sore throat, I could always get a lozenge from you as well.
You know it. I carry a pharmacy in my gig bag.
Exactly. So, well, thank you so much. We hope to chat with Larry again or at some point in time later on. Thanks.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
Well, we want to thank Robin Bell for taking the time to speak with us today. I sure learned a whole lot about my own website, promotional photos and videos that are necessary to keep me running in the business. Now, we always like to close out our show with a facepalm. That is where you put your palm onto your forehead in disbelief in what's happened in the world of events, brand ambassadors, and trade shows. And today's facepalm is from Becky Jo Schwartz of CE Talent. She tells us of a brand ambassador that was hired through her agency that she got a phone call about because of an indecent exposure in a jacuzzi after the trade show closed.
Oh, yes, I do. We actually had a situation where a talent was invited, in fact, to go to dinner with a gentleman, and she did. And long story short, she ended up in the hot tub with said gentleman when the client walks by and sees her crowd gatherer in a hot tub with one of her staff, and she was mortified. And she basically contacted us and said, please have her removed. I want someone else. So, yeah, like, I say use common sense. Unfortunately, I have found sometimes common sense is not as common.
Well, that wraps it up for episode number 2 of season 1. I hope you had as much fun listening as I had talking to our guests. I want to thank our guests Jennifer Canali, Becky Jo Schwartz, Alexis Bays, Robin Bell, and Veronica Taveldi for putting in some of their insights to the industry. Hey, I'm having so much fun doing this, and it's way more fun when I know that you're listening. So if you'll click the subscribe button right there on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or TuneIn or whatever podcast distribution method you're using to listen to us, let us know by subscribing. And if there's a guest that you want to hear from, let me know. I'd love to invite them on. You can reach me by email. My email is stokar@corporateeffects.com. That's STOKAR at CorporateFX. That's CORPORATE. The letter F is in Frank, the letter X is in X-ray.com. stokar@corporateeffects.com. I would love to hear from you. Well, that wraps it up for this week. I look forward to the next week on Face the Event.